If you have been in a relationship for any amount of time, odds are good that at least once or twice you've been guilty of projecting your own negative thoughts, your own motives, your own desires onto your partner. And if you're struggling from retroactive jealousy, it's at least possible that you've done the same in this context. In today's video, I want to explore the relationship, or at least the potential relationship, between projecting in your relationship and retroactive jealousy. My name is Zachary Stockill, and since 2013, I've been helping men and women from all over the world overcome retroactive jealousy and save their relationships. If you'd like more information about my work, or you'd like to work with me one-on-one, please visit my website at retroactivejealousy.com. I received a very interesting comment from a viewer on this channel recently that I had to share, that I had to kind of unpack a little bit. So I'll read it now. And this comment comes from someone we'll call Mark. Mark writes, "I would appreciate your thoughts on projecting in relationships. I have worried that my partners think of past experiences, worried that they're weak enough to desire attention and flirt for affirmation, worried that they sometimes call to mind beautiful or hot memories of other loves. Because I do this, I'm projecting. There's a saying, thieves think everyone steals. Maybe that's a factor in retroactive jealousy. Sometimes it helps to remember that I do the same thing I fear my partners do. And I know how harmless it is in the big scheme of things when I do it. What do you think?" Thank you for your comment, Mark, and this is a very interesting one. And to answer your question, yes, this has been a common theme through many of my experiences coaching people struggling with retroactive jealousy. Not every retroactive jealousy sufferer is projecting onto their partner, but many do. But before we get into that, we should probably offer a definition of projection. So in general, in psychology, projecting involves ascribing your own negative thoughts, your own negative impulses, your own negative desires onto your partner, or indeed anyone else. There's an element of hypocrisy involved in this, obviously, but that line that you quote is really good. Thieves think everyone steals, right? Because the person is a thief, their whole livelihood is based on stealing, so naturally they assume that other people are going around thieving all the time when that isn't necessarily true. That is projection in a nutshell. And it's very, very, very common in relationships. We all have moments of doing this, where we're having a bad mood, or we have a bad thought, or we have a bad impulse, or whatever, and we project it onto our partner. We say, you're doing this, or you want this, or you feel this way, or you're doing X. When in reality, it's merely a projection of our innermost negative thoughts, negative impulses. And indeed, many retroactive jealousy sufferers do this. So I want to again emphasize, not all retroactive jealousy sufferers do this, but many do. So many retroactive jealousy sufferers, and I have to say this, in particular men, don't have a lot of sexual experience in their own past. And some of these men, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this whatsoever, some of these men want more. They wish they'd been more active during their single years. They wish they'd taken more chances in their dating life. They wish they'd been with more women, perhaps. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this. What I do think is wrong is punishing your partner for what you want, projecting all of this stuff onto your partner, not being honest about it with either your partner or yourself, staying in the relationship indefinitely and punishing your girlfriend or your wife all over and over for her past, when in fact, her past is a reflection perhaps of some repressed desires on your part. I don't think that's right whatsoever. However, in these guys' defense, I will also say that many of them don't realize they're doing it. And this is where a good therapist or a coach comes in handy. A lot of these guys, I've found in my coaching practice, it takes a bit of time and a bit of effort on my part to finally get them to realize that, oh, really, I wanted these things when I was single. I didn't get to experience these things, and thus I'm punishing my partner for having what I actually wanted. And I think Mark also raises a really interesting and valid point when he realizes that he might have the occasional thought about an ex of his. He might have the occasional messed up sexual thought about someone. He may have the occasional fleeting desire for another woman or whatever. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not important, because human beings are complicated. Human sexuality is complicated. We're a deeply, deeply, deeply sexually motivated species. We all have a million crazy thoughts a day relating to sex and all kinds of things. And an innocent thought about an ex, perhaps, or about a beautiful woman walking down the street is not necessarily a big deal. And I think it's really important and valuable that Mark identifies this within himself, and he's conscious of that fact that just because I have some random thought about an ex or whatever doesn't necessarily say anything about my feelings about my partner or about my current relationship. So for anyone out there watching who wonders if they might be projecting as it relates to their experience of retroactive jealousy, just kind of keep an eye on yourself. You can journal about this. You can pay attention to these feelings when they come up. And I think it's a pretty good rule of thumb that if you ever have the question if you're projecting, the odds are pretty good that you probably are. Don't punish your partner for things that you want. Don't punish your partner for your repressed desires. I think that's also really important to highlight here. As I often tell, in particular, male retroactive jealousy sufferers, if you feel like you need to go out there and be single for a while, or have more dating experience, or maybe even more sexual experience, if you feel like that's something you need as a man, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that at all. Speaking personally, I definitely wasn't ready to settle down at 18 years old or 19 years old or 20 years old. I needed more exposure to different women, to different dating relationships. I needed more experience, frankly, before I felt even remotely ready to truly commit to one woman. That was something that I needed. I know that a lot of people don't need that, but I did. And I was honest about that, and that led to me losing several relationships along the way. In fact, that led to me walking away from several incredible women because I had to be honest with myself, and I also had to be honest with them. So that's my biggest point in this video. Be honest with yourself and be honest with the women you're dating, or the men you're dating if you feel like you're a woman and you're projecting in your relationship. Regardless of your gender, regardless of your sexual orientation, if you feel like you're projecting in your relationship, be honest about that with yourself and be honest about your innermost desires, your innermost fears, your innermost yearnings. Because what is suppressed eventually needs to be expressed. And if you try to bottle all this stuff up and keep all these desires and all these yearnings down for many, many months or even years at a time, eventually it's going to explode. So in particular, if you're single or you're in a relationship, in other words, if you're not married, if you don't have kids, I would say in particular for people like that, spend the time, spend the energy necessary to get clear on whether you're using retroactive jealousy as an excuse to push your partner away, because maybe you don't feel ready to make a serious commitment. Maybe you feel like you need more dating experience. Maybe you feel like you need more romantic experience. This isn't an easy question to answer, but it's much better to have these conversations and to have this insight now before you do things like get married and certainly before you have children. And again, just to shamelessly plug my own services, this is where a good coach can come in handy. I have a lot of experience working with men in this situation where they're dating a woman, but maybe they're not entirely sure if it's time to commit. They're not entirely sure if maybe they need more dating experience. If you have those questions, I'd be happy to work with you. You can find all of the information about my coaching services in the description of this video. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and if you got anything out of this video today, please take a moment to let me know by clicking the like button below. I would also ask you to please leave a comment telling me what you think, and while you're at it, please be sure you are subscribed to my channel to be notified of new videos moving forward. Thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you soon.